Syringy here with the first of hopefully a couple videos that's going to take us through some Regents practice questions. I'm just going to go through 6 questions at a time, starting with the part 1 questions on August 2022 exam. These are questions we've already done in class. And I'm going to start by reading the question, giving like a little hint, pausing so you can maybe try it on your own, and then giving you the answer afterwards. So to start, right, number 1, you have the hot and tasty coffee chain conducts a survey of its customers at its location at the Staten Island Ferry Terminal. After the survey is completed, the statistical consultant states that 70% of customers who took the survey said the most important factor in choosing where to get their coffee is how fast they're served. Based on this result, hot and tasty coffee can confer that. So my hint here is this, right? The hot and tasty coffee chain conducts a survey of its customers at its location at the Staten Island Ferry Terminal. And this hint basically tells you, right, that they only conducted the survey only at that one ferry terminal. So they really can't make any inferences about like what's happening in New York State, coffee drinkers in general, or even other transportation terminals. They can only really talk about what the customers at that specific Staten Island Ferry Terminal cared about most, because that's the only place they surveyed. If they wanted to make like broader assumptions, they'd have to have increased their survey to other places, basically. Moving on to number 2 and number 3, right? Number 2, given that I is the imaginary unit, the expression in parentheses x minus 2i squared is equivalent to. My hint here is, right, whenever you see something in parentheses being squared, you're not just giving the square to the 2 terms inside. You have to just rewrite it as x minus 2i times x minus 2i. And you'll forgive me, my math, I'm just doing this with the math, so that's why it might look messy. That's your hint. And then after that, right, all I'm gonna do is FOIL, right? So I'm gonna say my first terms is x squared. My outer terms is x times minus 2i, so it's gonna be a minus 2xi. My inner terms, negative 2i times x. I'm always going to keep my variable before my imaginary numbers. I'm going to say minus 2xi. And then my last terms, negative 2i times negative 2i becomes positive 4i squared. Still don't see any answers in my multiple choice, right? 2 things here, right? I know I have 2 like terms that I can combine with my xi's. So I'll do that. That becomes negative 4xi, and then I bring down my x squared. And then over here, right, we know the I squared can be simplified. I squared is just negative 1. So what I'm really saying is, what's 4 times negative 1? Negative 4. Now I'm happy, I have an answer choice, x squared minus 4xi minus 4. Moving on to number 3, you have this equation below can be used to model the height of a tide in feet, h of t, on a beach at t hours. You have this equation. We should know that this is, right, like a trig equation. And for trig, right, we were thinking about, whenever I see an equation, I can think of the 3 things, right? 3 important details about it. You've got your amplitude. Just gonna, right? Amplitude. You have your frequency. And you have your midline. So you use those 3, see if you can figure out the 3 numbers. That's your hint. So if you're still with me, right, amplitude, right, is always going to be the number that's being kind of multiplying your function. So that's my 4.8. So that already right off the bat, since it's asking me for my amplitude of the tide, guess what? I already have my answer. Answer choice number 2, right? But let's just go a little bit further, right? Frequency is always going to be the number kind of inside your parenthesis. So it's going to be my pi over 6. And then your midline is the number that's going to be adding or subtracting to your function. So in this case, my midline is plus 5.1. So now you at least have an idea of the 3 important characteristics of any trig function. Moving on to number 4. In this case, right, in watching 4 auditions for lead singer in a band, Liam becomes curious as to whether there is an association between how animated the lead singer is and the amount of applause from the audience. He decided to watch each singer and rate the singer on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is the least animated and 5 is the most animated. He did this for all 5 nights of auditions and found that the more animated singers did receive louder applause. My little hint here is he decided to watch each singer and rate the singer. I use that for my hint because what did he do? All he did was watch. He didn't do an experiment, right? He didn't talk to anybody. He just watched. So this would be an example of an observational study. Moving on to number 5. So here, right, you have a diagram of a unit circle below. Point A, which is the point, negative square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2 represents the point where the terminal side of that angle, I think it's theta, intersects the unit circle. So they're giving you the point. And my hint here, right, is I can basically, if I know the coordinate points of my 3 reference angles, I can find any other angle on my unit circle, right? Just by looking at my quadrant 1 reference angles. So in quadrant 1, right, you have 3 reference angles. You have 30, you have 45, which is going to be blue, and you have 60, which is green. So my red one, right, is 30 degrees reference angle. I know that my coordinate point is going to be the square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2, right? I know, right, my blue angle is 45 degrees, and that's going to be the square root of 2 over 2, comma, the square root of 2 over 2, right? And then my green one is the 60-degree reference angle. That's 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. So really, if you know like 3 values, you can remember them all. So I look over here, right? Oh my God, right? Which one am I looking at? It's a variation of my 30-degree reference angle. Makes sense because it's negative, positive, so it's got to be in quadrant 2. We always find the reference angle by looking at, right, this would be an angle of 180 degrees. So 180 minus 30 is 150. And it kind of just looks like 150, right? So I kind of gave this as like extra, but you can, if you write these down in your notes, right, it's going to help you with any coordinate point they give you. And moving on to number 6. Right, consider the function f of x equals 2x cubed plus x squared minus 18x minus 9. Which statement is true? Whenever I see something like this, right, like something with 4 terms, I'm thinking factoring by grouping. So I kind of want to like split up my function right into 2 pieces and factor by grouping, right? I always find my GCF of my each little set and work from there. So that's your hint. And then when we're back, right, factoring by group, I'm going to take my GCF, right, of my first 2 terms, which is x squared. What's left over for my x squared? 2x plus 1. And then I look at, right, my second 2 terms here. I have a minus 9 is my GCF. What does that leave me with, right? 2x plus 1, right? I'm happy because these are the same, so that's going to be my first factor. And then I get my second factor by just putting in my two GCFs, right? So x squared minus 9. But I'm not done because this is a difference of perfect squares, so this can be even factored out a little bit further. X plus 3, x minus 3, bring down my 2x plus 1, and you're good to go. Right, now I see, oh my goodness, we got x minus 3, right, is indeed a factor, so I'm going to have answer choice number 2. That's first problem set in the books.